Ferrari's 2025 Formula One season has already started to attract attention, and much of the buzz is centered around their latest challenger, the SF25. But this attention isn't just about a new car design or bold red livery. It's about a set of performance figures being shared online, claiming Ferrari has improved by as much as 1.5 seconds compared to last year's SF24. These numbers have sparked a wave of excitement among fans and pundits, but the important question that needs to be asked is, are these claims actually true? In this video, we're going to explore the origins of these claims, the credibility behind them, the reality of what Ferrari may have actually achieved, and what it all means when we consider the performance of rival teams. Let's begin with the central issue, the widely discussed simulation data. Over the winter, a number of unofficial sources began to report that Ferrari had unlocked up to 1.5 seconds of lap time in their SF25 simulator runs compared to the 2024 car. Some said the gain was 1 second, others suggested it was half a second, and while these numbers might seem like a dream come true for Ferrari fans, the truth behind these claims is far more complex. The first thing we have to ask is where these numbers are coming from. Most of these lap time claims have not come from official Ferrari statements, nor from journalists with consistent inside access to the team. Instead, many of these figures appear to originate from social media rumors, fan speculation, or unnamed online sources. It's important to note that during the off-season, Formula One content thrives on speculation, and it's very easy to create headlines around big numbers without much evidence to back them up. In fact, that's part of the reason you're seeing videos like this. But instead of pushing hype, the aim here is to explain why these numbers should be taken with caution. One of the key issues with simulation data is that it's not always reliable, especially in this current ground effect era of Formula One. When teams run their cars in simulators or even in wind tunnels, they base their setups on specific parameters. These simulations are useful tools for development, but they don't always match up with real-world performance. That's because Formula One cars are highly sensitive to track conditions, tire behavior, and countless variables that simply can't be fully replicated in a virtual environment. During the ground effect era, we've already seen just how misleading simulation data can be. Take Mercedes, for example. Their zero-pod concept was built on what looked like promising simulation and wind tunnel numbers. On paper, it should have worked. But in reality, the car bounced heavily, lacked stability, and struggled for 2 seasons until they finally moved away from that concept. If a team like Mercedes, with all of their experience and resources, can misread sim data so significantly, then it's clear that sim figures should always be treated with skepticism. Another issue that often gets overlooked when discussing performance gains is the comparison point. Let's say Ferrari has genuinely found 1 second in lap time over the winter. That sounds incredible until you ask, compared to what? Is this gain measured against the SF24 in its early season form? Is it based on the version from the last race in Abu Dhabi? Or is it simply against a standard simulation benchmark that doesn't take rivals into account? Context is everything. If Ferrari found 1 second compared to their early 2024 car, that might sound good. But their rivals, particularly McLaren and Red Bull, also made big gains throughout 2024. In the final races of the season, Ferrari were consistently behind McLaren by about 0.2 in qualifying, and they finished well over 10 seconds behind them in race trim at Abu Dhabi. So if McLaren also finds a second in the winter, Ferrari's gain becomes neutral. They'd still be behind. And that's before considering what Red Bull or even Mercedes might bring to the table. So what does that mean for the actual performance expectations around the SF25? When we step away from the exaggerated online claims and look at more credible sources, a more realistic picture begins to emerge. Some well-connected insiders with links to Ferrari have suggested that the team's real improvement is likely closer to half a second, possibly 3/4 of a second. That's still a big step in Formula One terms, and it's actually within the range of what a top team can realistically expect from a winter development cycle. This improvement isn't just coming out of thin air either. Ferrari has made some serious changes to the design of the SF25. One of the biggest and most significant updates is the switch in front suspension layout. the team has moved from a push rod to a pull rod configuration. That change may sound minor to casual fans, but it has massive implications for car balance, aerodynamic flow, and how the tires behave over a lap. Front suspension geometry affects how weight is transferred during braking and cornering, which has a direct impact on lap time. On top of that, Ferrari has overhauled much of the SF25's overall structure. Reports indicate that 99% of the car has been redesigned compared to last year, which suggests that the team has taken a bold approach rather than a conservative evolution. This is important because it means Ferrari has gone beyond simply tweaking parts. They've rethought their entire concept. In the current era, this level of change is necessary if you want to catch up to Red Bull or even leapfrog McLaren. But again, we come back to the central challenge. What are the other teams doing? In F1, it's not just about how much you improve. It's about whether you improve more than your rivals. For example, if Ferrari finds half a second but Red Bull finds 6/10, then Ferrari is still behind. If Mercedes, who were behind Ferrari in 2024, find a massive gain of 1.5 seconds due to a more conventional car concept, they might leapfrog Ferrari entirely. So performance gains are always relative. That's why simply quoting numbers like Ferrari found 1.5 seconds without discussing rival development is misleading. Now let's talk more about the simulation data itself and why it's so difficult to trust completely. In today's Formula One, teams rely heavily on simulation tools, but these tools have limitations. For starters, most simulator sessions are run in controlled environments where external factors like wind, track evolution, and tire degradation are removed. This makes it easier to isolate changes, but it doesn't reflect real race conditions. Even the best simulators, like Ferrari's new $8 million facility developed with Dynisma, can only go so far. They help drivers prepare and give engineers direction, but the final word always comes from the track. That's why all teams still put so much importance on pre-season testing and practice sessions. Only when the rubber hits the road in real-world conditions can a team truly know if their simulator data was accurate. That's also why some upgrades can surprise teams, positively or negatively. In some cases, teams find more time on the track than they expected from simulations. In other cases, they discover fundamental problems that were completely hidden during winter development. This unpredictability is a key trait of the current F1 era, and one of the reasons why teams like Mercedes have struggled to convert concepts into race-winning cars. For Ferrari, the real test will come in pre-season testing and especially during the first few qualifying sessions of 2025. Until then, even the most advanced simulation tools won't provide the full picture. But if the sim data is even partially correct, Ferrari fans do have some reasons to be cautiously optimistic. At this point, it's also worth looking at the broader context of Ferrari's long-term project. Since 2022, the team has been undergoing a gradual transformation, both technically and strategically. The arrival of Fred Vasseur as team principal marked a shift toward a more stable, focused and performance-driven structure.